Hi guys, how you all doing? Thank you so much for joining me. So today's reaction says Liberal host snaps at Candace Owens. She instantly regrets it. Whoa, wrong move. She didn't get the memo. Guess she doesn't know who Candace Owens is. Wrong move, lady host.
We had received so much interest over a period of time in this sort of youth black conservative movement, and it felt like we really wanted to harness the power and the opportunity and invite everyone to DC, first and foremost, to bring them to conservative ideas.
See how harmless and innocent she looks, like she can't hurt a fly.
Major hurdle that the black community faces is not having the resources to get to different ideas and sort of being locked inside of a bubble. And having them listen to speakers that they perhaps haven't heard before, Dr. Ben Carson, Larry Elder, people who are routinely mocked in our community. So this is the first ever opportunity to do that in DC, and we're really excited that it's happening this weekend.
Charlie, what are you hoping that the president gets out of these interactions?
Well, I first want to take a step back and just give Candace Owens credit for changing the national conversation around these issues from a conservative kind of perspective over the last year. When I first met Candace, one of the first things she said is, she said, Charlie, I think we can have a young black leadership summit that can be a lot bigger than any of the pundits or the consultants would ever dream. And tomorrow, 400 plus young black leaders from across the country. That's an accomplishment that, especially of a conservative,
dream come true,
if you will.
And the number could have been much higher.
That's right. And so the number could have been higher, and it was the last minute influx of interest. And we had probably 5x that in applicants and in inquiries. But what Candace Owens and our urban engagement director, Brandon Tatum, have done at Turning Point USA to really garner more interest amongst the black community for conservative values, I think it's worth having the conversation, and it's something that, given all the recent news and attention around these issues, I think is something that will be quite interesting tomorrow.
Candace, there's obviously a bit of skepticism. As long as I've been in the game of conservative politics, as long as I've been a conservative, which is probably about sophomore year of high school, there have been conversations about how do conservatives win over more of the black community. There have been some prominent leaders. You mentioned Dr. Ben Carson, others who have come forward and have tried to get this conversation going. What are you seeing that's different now, really? Like, why is it? I mean, to Charlie's point, he's saying that you've changed the conversation. How and why is the conversation different?
It's funny that you say that, because I was able to meet with Dr. Ben Carson early on this year, and we spoke about that. Like, what are the differences? Why are people paying a little more attention now? And I think that, and to his credit, in the past, the conversation was almost so intellectual that it was hard for people to digest and process and to understand. And because the left had won the culture war, it was easy for them to mock them, to see a skit where perhaps Dr. Ben Carson or Dr. Condoleezza Rice were being mocked. And I think I'm a little more of a fighter, definitely in terms of starting my channel on YouTube and wanting it to be colloquial and wanting it to feel familiar, like you were talking to your brother and sister, and sort of taking back some of the turf that was lost on the culture war by making fun of people on the left in the same way that they make fun of us. I think that sort of helped bridge the gap and make people more interested in having the discussion.
Does it bother you that there's no prominent African Americans in the White House itself? Do you think that's important?
Sure there is. Dr. Ben Carson's part of the executive branch. That's not true. That's not true.
Well, within the White House.
I don't like it when anybody, be it leftist, be it a host, be it anybody, turns a good, interesting conversation into race. Wrong move. Don't dish what you cannot eat.
Jaron is an executive with Jared Kushner.
What is his role?
He's a DAP, which is a Deputy Assistant to the President of the United States, which is a top tier. So that's not true.
Who are other individuals in the White House?
Well, I want to go back and answer your question. So, one thing that we always speak when we speak to conservatives about is we have to stop believing in this illusion that because somebody is black, they represent my interests. We learned that lesson via Barack Obama. I mean, he was in the White House for.
This is about Candy's mood. She's so sober, calm, humble. That's why she had the guts to answer such question. Don't dish what you cannot eat.
8 years and didn't do much for the black community, so I'm not interested in the color of people's skin. So I'm interested in what they do and what they accomplish.
I'm really interested in your perspective here. So to you, having you don't look at it is an administration that has more white men than past administrations have had. But that doesn't bother you. You don't think that diversity is important?
No, not at all. I think that we have to stop believing that diversity is the color of people's skin, because if you have the Black Caucus, for example, which didn't stand up and applaud when Trump announced that we had the lowest ever unemployment in the black community, that's concerning to me. So a big part of the conversation that we open is in making people understand that's an illusion that the left has sold, that somehow because somebody matches my skin color, because somebody matches my gender, they have my best interests at heart, and that is completely fallacious.
I have to ask about Kanye. You two have
Perfect answer. That's someone with wisdom talking. You can't manipulate her. You can't play the race card with Candace Owens. Who sent you, lady?
I've been seen, photographed with, spent time with Kanye. I got a tremendous, we have to speak about him on the show, got a tremendous amount of attention from the media from a recent meeting in the Oval Office. How does he factor? Look, I feel like conservatives play this game that we go back and forth. If anybody who's famous starts talking in any way that conservatives like, we embrace them right away, and then sometimes we feel like we get burned later. They're not as conservative as we thought. Kanye has such a huge megaphone. He's obviously somewhat of a controversial figure as well, based on what he said in the past. Charlie, just to start with you. How does he play into all this other than, I want to hear from both of you on this, but how does he play into all this other than just getting a lot of attention? You know what I mean? How is he changing the conversation?
I'll be the first one to admit, I was your typical macroeconomic loving kind of conservative individual that wasn't part of the culture that, you got
a high paperback in your bag.
I know what I mean. I became a conservative based on reading Free to Choose and Ludwig von Mises. And I think it's amazing that someone like Kanye West is broadening the conversation. And it was Candace that opened my eyes to this. And I wasn't that I was resistant, but I was like, really, Candace? Wait, what do you mean that we can? She said, no, you don't understand. From one of the first times I met Candace said, Charlie, Kanye West can change the national conversation around these issues, and I think that he's more of a Trump supporter than people give credit. In fact, Candace is on record with our friend Dave Rubin saying this back in September of 2017, kind of predicting the Kanye.
Charlie is such a humble, sweet soul. I love how Charlie acknowledges Candace's effort, and the credit he gives to her is so beautiful to watch.
Movement, I guess you could say.
The Kanye movement.
I'm going to use that word, and I think that's true.
I've sort of followed Kanye's career for a very long time, so when I was asked that question of who I admire, I said Kanye West, because he's always been, long before Donald Trump came down the escalator, it was Kanye West that's been the battering ram against political correctness, and I knew that someone with his personality wasn't going to be able to exist comfortably on the left anymore, because we are now being told what to think, how we have to think, who we have to love, who we have to hate, and that's not comfortable for anybody that's an artist, and their stranglehold on culture is really what Kanye is sort of taking a stab at. Now, I want to be clear, based off of my conversations with him, he's not a Republican, and I think that that's an important thing to distinguish and to make clear, distinction to make, because in many ways I've said I'm not a Republican either, but he is a free thinker, and he values ideas, and unfortunately, if you believe in the ability to think and to have a dialogue, that is a position that's on the right today.
So Candace, I do want to ask you about news of the day. Obviously, we have all these explosive devices that have been sent to prominent critics of this administration.
Right.
And in a tweet, you originally said you thought there was zero chance conservatives sent bombs. I think you took that tweet down.
Yeah.
But you later added, it isn't conservatives that are chasing people down in offices and restaurants. It isn't conservatives that have weaponized sexual assault as a means to political gain. I stand by my opinion that when it comes to political violence, the left is the likely culprit.
That's correct. So we've seen that.
So you think that it was the left or Democrats who sent these spike bombs?
I think we're all entitled to have an opinion. We don't have any facts surrounding this, and Twitter is a venue where you're allowed to express your opinions and beliefs. And
but just to be clear, so that's not based on any facts. That's just your
belief. Of course, it couldn't possibly be based on facts. We don't have any evidence other than the fact that they're investigating it. But
I'll come to Candace's.
I do want to finish this by just saying that. It is my belief, when you take a look at the conversation, the things that have gone on and the increasing violence that's gone on, it has purely been a leftist tactic to stall things, delay the administration, and to fearmonger. So as a matter of opinion, I do believe that when we get to the resolution, the bottom of this, and we do have facts, we're going to say that this is orchestrated by the left, but by no means is that opinion rooted in any proof, because we don't have anything yet to go off of.
I could certainly point to Charlottesville, I could point to other acts that happened, I could point to Dylan Roof. There's certainly acts of violence that have come from
But do you see how far back you have to go to do that?
Charlottesville?
That's literally starting at the beginning of the administration. Look at all of the things that have gone on.
I don't want to have this debate, because ugliness can come from both sides.
No, I'm just saying that you brought it up.
But I do want to ask you, though.
Just answering the question.
You've got a big platform.
I do.
Right? And you have a powerful voice.
Thank you.
And kudos to you for creating that.
Thank you.
How do you view the responsibility that comes with that?
I view the responsibility of just being a person that maintains my ability to have an opinion, that I express an opinion, and no means that I say that I have just found the facts and this is related.
Yeah.
And I always reserve the right.
You said there's 0% chance.
Yeah. I said I'm going to go out and say that there is a 0% chance that this was sent by conservatives. I find all the things that are going on, the caravan of illegals, the packages that are being sent, Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation.
And just to clarify, you think the caravan too was organized by Democrats?
I find it to be incredibly suspicious timing, so that they are meant to get to the border on the day of the election. Again, this is not rude in fact, but you do have to understand I am very much entitled to my opinion, and Twitter is my platform.
Candace, I have one more.
Just one more here, because I wanted to get to know you before you came on. And I'm really interested in your perspective because I think you're a fascinating person.
Thank you.
There was another tweet that said the Democratic Party is comprised of racist white liberals.
That is correct.
Am I a racist white liberal?
Well, let's go back, and let's say, I will say this, that many people in the party are not aware of their own racism. Let's go back to an early part of this conversation where you said to me, are you concerned about the color in the White House?
Good.
Why would you ask me that question?
Because you speak about black issues.
No, but why would you ask me? But let's get to really the nucleus of this. Why did you ask me that question today?
Because I'm
why did you feel that I needed to be
perspective.
concerned about that?
Because you're bringing a whole group of young African American leaders to the White House.
Okay, so this is something that I talk about often, is that in many ways white liberals don't realize that you put on that the racism and the conversations that we have.
So you're saying I'm a racist?
You haven't let me finish my statement. You keep cutting me off.
Go ahead.
Okay? The emphasis that you place is always on having a discussion about race. Okay? You guys are insistent on having a conversation about race and telling us that we should see, and implying that we should see race everywhere, and I don't agree with that. If you don't look at me according to the color of my skin, you would simply ask me how I thought that Trump was doing as a president. But instead, you try to drum up a conversation that's surrounded by race by asking me, are there enough black people in the White House?
You're bringing a whole group of young black leaders to the White House.
Color, I don't.
That's something that's important to you.
So why are you talking about?
Then why make it that you're going to bring young black leaders to the White House? I mean, this is sort of absurd.
Because the media,
this is absurd. You're bringing this group to the White House.
It's not absurd. I'm making perfect sense.
I just want to be clear.
Yeah.
I just want to be clear.
I'm trying to be extremely clear.
I know.
Bringing the black conservatives to the White House.
Me as a racist white
I think
liberal.
that you're not. First off, you put those words in my mouth, and you keep saying it. So I'm not. I said that the Democrat Party is comprised of racist white liberals. Is every person in the party racist? No, but you're not aware of the fact that you put these racist tones out into the media. This is why we have to bring the black conservatives to the president, because you create a narrative when you're on TV like you did today. Are you comfortable with
I'm going to have you on video later because I have questions for you as well, but we actually have to get out of the segment now.
Do you think that language is helpful, though? I mean, just in terms of the national conversation.
I could ask you, do you think it's helpful to ask me just because I'm a black woman if I'm comfortable with the amount of color that's on the administration? Do you think that that's helpful?
I think it's helpful and interesting to know your perspective.
It's not. It's you just trying to create an undertone that Donald Trump is racist, and it's wrong.
Yeah. Okay.
That to me is the reason why.
Listen, no.
I just want to say,
you're looking at me on the basis of my skin color, making a bunch of deductions. I did not. Remember you said that, and we can run the tape back.
I want to say, look, here's what I want to say.
You quoted a tweet and then you made it about you.
I appreciate.
So you were not added, but you were not added in that tweet. So do not say that I called you that, because that's dishonest. And we are on, TV. So you can run.
Racist.
Okay, so I did not call you a racist. You're using the typical leftist tactic of trying to make yourself a victim, which is not what I want.
No, but we're actually well beyond time.
Well, she's making herself a victim and pretending that I came here and called her racist. So this is a typical leftist tactic.
That we not demonize our opponents.
And I think it's important that you not demonize my president.
I'm so sorry for the poor in transmission. Please pardon me. In her words, she said, ugliness can come from both sides. This is the ugliness she talks about.
And one thing that I try very hard to do is to criticize the policies and criticize people who are in positions of power.
I'm not sure how you were doing that by pointing out the color in the administration.
But not to criticize the people who support the president.
You literally spoke
That's something I try very hard to do.
But you're not doing a very good job of it.
And I think it's really important.
I think it's really important that you be aware that just because I'm a black woman, you don't need to ask me a question as basic enough as saying how much color is in the administration.
To demonize our fellow
Americans. I think what's problematic is that you are creating a simulation that is dishonest, that is accusing our president of being racist based off of the color of the people that are in the. That's exactly what you asked me a question. That's what you implied.
Okay, I actually really appreciate you two coming in very much, and I look forward to getting to ask you some questions of my own at some point later on. And
Candace Owens was in her best behavior. The lady host woke the lioness in her. I love how she handled her and put her in her place. Charlie was. He didn't interrupt. He kept quiet and allowed the whole thing to play out. Candace should consider running for a prominent position. She has all it takes, all the attributes. I had a sweat time reacting to this video. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. See you on the next one. Please support your girl by watching, liking, and subscribing to my YouTube channel. Be at peace with yourself and with all mankind. Bye-bye.